This is why you should never leave your children with your neighbors. Once upon a time, in a village called Umuaka, life was simple and sweet. The air smelled like fresh palm wine and roasted corn. Children played in the red dust until the sun went down. Women sang by the stream. Men told stories under the big iroko tree. In Umuaka, nobody locked their doors. Neighbors shared food. If your pot was empty, someone would fill it. If your child cried, any woman would carry them. Trust lived in every home like an extra family member. But there was something people forgot. Not every smile comes from a good heart. Not every helping hand wants to help. Sometimes, the person sitting closest to you is the one wishing you would fall. The people of Umuaka did not know this yet. They believed that because they were kind, everyone else was kind too. They did not see the shadows hiding behind bright faces. In this village lived a woman named Ngozi. She was young, strong, and always smiling. Her husband had died 2 rainy seasons ago, but she did not let sadness break her. She woke up early every day and went to the river to sell plantains. Ngozi had 2 children. A boy named Chimdi and a girl named Amara. They were her whole world. And someone else was watching them closely. Ngozi loved her children more than anything. Chimdi was 7 years old. He had big curious eyes and loved to ask questions about everything. Amara was 5. She loved to sing and dance, even when there was no music. Every morning, Ngozi would tie her wrapper tight and balance a basket of plantains on her head. She walked to the river market where traders came from far villages to buy and sell. Her plantains were always the sweetest. People said she had a special touch. But Ngozi had one problem. She could not take her children to the market. The journey was long and the sun was hot. So she needed someone to watch them while she was away. Her neighbor, Mama Chica, always offered to help. Mama Chica lived in the compound next to Ngozi's. She had no children of her own. Her husband had left her many years ago. She lived alone, but she always smiled when she saw Ngozi's children. "Leave them with me," Mama Chica would say, her voice sweet like honey. "I will feed them and keep them safe. You go and sell your plantains in peace." Ngozi always thanked her. She trusted Mama Chica because the woman had helped her many times before. What Ngozi did not know was that Mama Chica's smiles were fake. Deep inside, jealousy was eating her heart like termites eating wood. In the village, women liked to talk. They gathered by the big mortar to pound yam and share stories. While their arms moved up and down, their mouths moved even faster. One afternoon, while Ngozi was at the river, the women were talking about her. One woman said that Ngozi is very lucky. Even though her husband is gone, her life is still sweet. Her children are healthy. Her plantains always sell. Another woman nodded. And she always smiles. Nothing can break that woman's spirit. Then an older woman lowered her voice and said, "But have you noticed Mama Chica? The way she watches Ngozi's children? The way her eyes follow them when they play." The women stopped pounding. They looked at each other. One of them whispered, "Mama Chica has always wanted what she does not have. She wanted a husband. He left. She wanted children. None came. Now she watches Ngozi like a hawk watching a chicken." The oldest woman shook her head. Jealousy is a dangerous sickness. It does not knock before it enters. It just sits inside your chest and grows. At that moment, the air became still. The wind stopped. Even the chickens stopped clucking. The women felt something cold touch their backs. They quickly finished pounding and went home. None of them said another word. That same day, Mama Chica was in her small kitchen stirring a pot of yam stew. The fire crackled beneath the clay pot. Her face glowed orange in the firelight, but her eyes were dark and cold. She muttered to herself as she stirred. "Why does Ngozi have everything? Her children laugh. Her home is full of life. And me? I have nothing. Only these empty rooms and this silent compound." She reached into a small leather pouch tied around her waist. Inside was a black powder. It smelled like rotten leaves and burnt feathers. She had bought it from a medicine man deep in the forest. He had told her, "This will make what you envy disappear. But be careful. The spirits do not forget." Mama Chica did not care about warnings. She poured the powder into the stew and stirred it 3 times clockwise, then 3 times the other way. The stew bubbled and hissed like an angry snake. Outside, Chimdi and Amara were playing near her window. Their laughter floated into her kitchen. She looked at them through the wooden slats. Her lips smiled, but her heart was full of darkness. "Come, my darlings," she called out sweetly. "I have cooked something special for you. Come and eat." The children ran to her door, excited. They loved Mama Chica's food. But today, something was different. A small bird flew to the window and began chirping loudly. It beat its wings against the wooden frame as if trying to warn them. The children did not notice. When the sun began to set, Ngozi returned from the river market. Her basket was empty, and her wrapper pocket was heavy with coins. She had sold all her plantains. She smiled as she walked, thinking about the beans and fish she would cook for her children. But when she reached her compound, everything was wrong. The air felt too quiet. The chickens were not clucking. The goats were not bleating. Even the lizards were not moving on the walls. "Chimdi. Amara," she called. No answer. She walked faster. Her heart began to beat like a talking drum. She looked in her house. Empty. She looked in the backyard. Empty. She ran to Mama Chica's compound. "Mama Chica, where are my children?" Mama Chica came out slowly, wiping her hands on her wrapper. Her face was calm, too calm. "They were here earlier. They ate some food. Then they went outside to play. I thought they went back to your house." Ngozi's eyes grew wide. "But they are not there. Where did they go?" Mama Chica shrugged. "Children run around. Maybe they went to the stream. Maybe they are hiding somewhere. You know how children play." But Ngozi knew her children. They never wandered far. She ran through the village calling their names. Neighbors came out and joined the search. Torches were lit. Voices echoed in the darkness. But Chimdi and Amara were nowhere. The entire village searched all night. Men carried torches made from dry palm branches. Women held lamps made from old tins filled with kerosene. Children were told to stay inside, but they peeked through windows, watching the lights move like fireflies in the darkness. The village chief, Okonkwo, was an old man with a white beard that reached his chest. He walked slowly with a wooden staff. When he heard about the missing children, he came out of his house shaking his head. "This is not good," he said, his voice deep and tired. "When children disappear like smoke, it is not the work of man. Something else has taken them." The villagers murmured. Some made signs with their fingers to chase away evil. Others whispered prayers. They searched until the roosters began to crow, signaling morning. But there was no sign of Chimdi and Amara. Ngozi sat on the ground outside Mama Chica's compound. Her wrapper was dirty from falling on her knees. Her eyes were red and swollen. She could not cry anymore. Her tears had dried up like a stream in the dry season. Then she saw something. Near the spot where her children had last played, something was glowing. A small clay bead, the size of a bean seed, was shining with a soft blue light. She picked it up. It was warm in her palm and pulsed like a heartbeat. Ngozi did not understand what the glowing bead meant, but something told her to follow it. The bead grew warmer when she walked toward the river and colder when she walked away. So she followed the warmth. The path to the river was dark. Trees stood on both sides like tall guards. Owls hooted. Frogs croaked. The night was full of sounds, but Ngozi was not afraid. A mother's love is stronger than fear. When she reached the riverbank, she saw someone sitting on a flat rock. It was an old woman. Her hair was long and silver like moonlight. Her skin was dark and smooth. She wore a wrapper made of something that looked like water and light mixed together. The old woman was weaving something with her fingers. It looked like a net, but it was made of thin threads of light. She did not look up when Ngozi approached. "I have been waiting for you," the old woman said. Her voice sounded like the river itself was speaking. Ngozi's mouth opened, but no words came out. How did this woman know she was coming? How did she know her name? "You are Ngozi," the old woman continued, still weaving. "And you have lost what you love most." Ngozi fell to her knees. "Please, grandmother, help me. My children are gone. I do not know where they are." The old woman finally looked up. Her eyes were completely white, no black, no color, just white like milk. But Ngozi could feel that those eyes saw everything. The old woman put down her net of light. She stood up slowly. Even though she was old, she moved like water, smooth and flowing. Your children are not lost, she said. They have been taken. Taken beneath the river, where jealousy holds them prisoner. Ngozi's heart dropped into her stomach. Beneath the river? Who took them? How can I bring them back? The old woman walked to the edge of the water. The river was dark and still like a giant sleeping snake. The one who smiled at you while hatred burned in her heart. The one who cooked for them while poison stirred in her pot. The one who lives next to you. Ngozi gasped. Mama Kika. The old woman nodded. Jealousy is a spirit. When it grows strong enough, it can open doors to dark places. Your children ate from her pot, and the door opened. Now they sleep in glass, waiting. Tears poured down Ngozi's face. Please, tell me how to save them. I will do anything. Anything. The river woman raised one finger. I will give you a chance. But you must follow 3 rules. If you break even one rule, you will never return. You will join your children in the darkness forever. Ngozi wiped her tears and stood up straight. Tell me the rules. I am ready. The old woman's white eyes seemed to glow. Listen carefully, daughter of sorrow. Listen and remember. The old woman raised 3 fingers. Her voice became serious, like thunder before rain. First rule, she said. Once you enter the water, you must not speak. Not one word. Not one sound. Even if you see things that make you want to scream, you must stay silent. Your voice will break the path. Ngozi nodded, her throat tight. Second rule. You will see many beautiful things under the water. Things that shine and sparkle. Things that look like treasures. Do not touch anything that shines. If you do, your hands will turn to stone. Ngozi's fingers trembled, but she nodded again. Third rule. This one is the hardest. The old woman stepped closer. Her white eyes stared deep into Ngozi's soul. You must not look back. No matter what you hear behind you. No matter who calls your name. No matter if you hear your children crying or your dead husband calling. Do not turn around. If you look back, the river will keep you forever. Ngozi felt cold all over. These rules were difficult. How could she stay silent if she saw her children suffering? How could she not look back if she heard them calling for her? But what choice did she have? I understand, Ngozi said. I will obey the rules. The old woman reached into the river and pulled out a handful of water. But the water did not drip. It stayed in her palm like a ball of glass. She pressed it against Ngozi's forehead. It felt ice cold. Now go. The door is open. But you must return before sunrise, or it will close forever. Ngozi took a deep breath and stepped into the river. She expected the water to be cold, but it was not. It was warm, like bath water. She took another step, and another. The water rose to her knees, then her waist, then her chest. Then something strange happened. The water in front of her opened like a door. It split apart, and behind it was not more water. It was a tunnel. A glowing tunnel made of glass or something like glass. Ngozi looked back at the old woman one last time. The woman nodded. Ngozi stepped through the opening. The tunnel was strange and beautiful. The walls glowed with soft blue and green light. Fish swam outside the glass, but they were not normal fish. They were transparent, like they were made of light. Some had wings. Some had too many eyes. Ngozi remembered the first rule. Do not speak. She pressed her lips together and kept walking. The tunnel sloped downward. Down, down, down into the belly of the river. The deeper she went, the darker it became. But she kept walking. Her feet made no sound on the smooth floor. Then she heard it. A voice. A familiar voice. Mama. Mama, where are you? It was Chimdi. Her son. His voice echoed through the tunnel. Ngozi's heart screamed. She wanted to answer. She wanted to shout, I am here. Mama is coming. But she bit her tongue. She remembered the rule. Do not speak. She kept walking, tears streaming down her face, but her lips stayed closed. Ngozi walked deeper into the tunnel. The light grew dimmer. The walls seemed to pulse like they were breathing. She could hear water dripping somewhere far away. Drip, drip, drip. Then she saw him. A man standing in the middle of the tunnel. He was tall and broad-shouldered. He wore the same wrapper her husband used to wear. The same beads around his neck. The same kind smile. Ngozi, the man said softly. My wife. I have missed you. Ngozi's legs almost gave way. It looked exactly like her husband. The husband who had died 2 rainy seasons ago. The husband she had cried for. The husband she still dreamed about. He stretched out his hand. Come. Take my hand. I will help you find our children. I know where they are. Let me lead you. Ngozi's hand moved forward on its own. Her fingers reached toward his. She wanted to feel his touch again. She wanted to hear him say her name one more time. But then she remembered. The old woman's warning. Things under the water are not what they seem. This was a test. A trick. She pulled her hand back. She pressed her lips together even though she wanted to speak. She wanted to say his name. She wanted to ask if it was really him. The figure smiled sadly. Then it began to fade like smoke in the wind. Soon, it was gone completely. Ngozi stood there shaking. The first test had passed, but her heart was breaking. Ngozi kept walking. The tunnel opened into a wide space. It looked like a garden, but everything was underwater. There were trees, but they were made of coral. There were flowers, but they glowed like lanterns. And hanging from the branches were fruits. Golden fruits. They sparkled and shined like tiny suns. Each fruit was perfect and round. They looked delicious, like they would taste sweeter than honey. But that was not all. As Ngozi walked closer, she saw something inside each fruit. Moving pictures. Like looking through a window. One fruit showed Chimdi laughing. Another showed Amara dancing. Another showed both children eating at a table, happy and safe. Another showed Ngozi herself, young and strong, with her husband beside her and her children playing at her feet. Her hand moved toward one of the fruits. It was so close. So beautiful. If she just touched it, maybe she could step into that picture. Maybe she could go back to when her husband was alive. When everything was simple and sweet. Her fingers were only a breath away from the golden skin of the fruit. She could feel warmth coming from it. She could almost taste it on her tongue. Then she heard the old woman's voice in her head. Do not touch what shines. Ngozi snatched her hand back. She closed her eyes and turned away from the garden. She would not touch. She would not break the rule. Her children needed her to be strong. She walked away from the golden fruits, even though part of her wanted to stay forever. After the garden, the tunnel became narrow and dark. Ngozi had to walk carefully. The floor was uneven. Sometimes she stumbled, but she kept going. Then the tunnel opened into a large cave. The walls were black stone. In the center of the cave were 2 large jars made of thick glass. And inside the jars, sleeping like they were under a spell, were Chimdi and Amara. Ngozi's heart exploded with joy and pain at the same time. Her children. They were right there. She ran toward the jars. She pressed her hands against the glass. It was cold and hard. Chimdi and Amara looked peaceful, like they were having sweet dreams. But they would not wake up. Ngozi knocked on the glass. Nothing. She pushed the jars. They would not move. Around the jars floated dark shadows. They had no faces, no bodies. Just darkness shaped like people. They circled the jars like sharks circling prey. One of the shadows drifted close to Ngozi. It had no mouth, but she heard a voice in her head. Cold. Empty. Hungry. We will trade, the voice said. Give us your voice, and we will free your children. Speak one word, and the jars will open. Ngozi's mouth opened. One word. That was all it would take. One word and her children would be free. But she remembered the rule. If she spoke, the path would break. She would be trapped here forever. Her children would wake up, but they would have no mother to take them home. Ngozi looked around desperately. How could she answer without speaking? How could she make a trade without words? Then she saw it. The floor of the cave was covered in soft sand. River sand. fine and smooth like flour. She knelt down. With her finger, she began to write in the sand. Her hand moved quickly. The shadows watched silently. She wrote, "Take my years. Take my strength. Take my beauty. But do not take my voice. My children will need it to find their way home." The shadows read her words. They swirled around each other like they were discussing. The cave became colder. Ngozi could see her breath in the air. Then the shadows spoke again. "You offer your years? You will age. You will become old before your time. Your back will bend. Your hair will turn white. Your skin will wrinkle. Do you accept?" Ngozi did not hesitate. She wrote in the sand again, "I accept. Take everything. Just free my children." The shadows seemed to smile, though they had no faces. One of them drifted to the first jar. It wrapped itself around the glass like a snake. The jar began to glow red, then orange, then white. Then it cracked. A thin line appeared down the middle. Then another crack. And another. The sound was like ice breaking on a frozen stream. Ngozi held her breath. The shadows moved to the second jar. The same thing happened. Cracks spread across the glass like spider webs. The jars shattered. Glass flew everywhere, but it did not cut. It dissolved in the air like sugar in water. Light burst out from where the jars had been. Bright white light that made Ngozi cover her eyes. When the light faded, Chimdi and Amara were standing there. Their eyes were open. They looked confused, like they had just woken from a long sleep. "Mama," Amara said, rubbing her eyes. Ngozi wanted to scream with joy. She wanted to laugh and cry and shout. But she could not speak. She ran to them and hugged them tight. She kissed their foreheads. Tears poured down her face. Chimdi hugged her back. "Mama, where are we? This place is strange." Amara looked around. "I'm scared. I want to go home." Ngozi nodded. She took their hands and turned toward the tunnel. They had to go back. They had to reach the surface before sunrise. The old woman had warned her. But as soon as she took the first step, the ground shook. The cave rumbled like thunder was trapped inside the stone. Rocks began to fall from the ceiling. The shadows scattered and disappeared. A deep voice echoed through the cave. It was old, ancient, angry. Who dares break the seal? Who dares take what was offered? The water around them began to swirl. A current pulled at Ngozi's legs. Something big was coming. Something that did not want them to leave. Ngozi grabbed her children's hands tighter and ran. They had to get out. Now. Ngozi ran through the tunnel, pulling her children behind her. The walls shook. Pieces of the glowing glass fell and shattered on the floor. The tunnel was collapsing. Behind them, she could hear something moving. Something large and heavy. The water churned and bubbled. Whatever was chasing them was getting closer. "Mama, run faster." Chimdi shouted. Amara was crying. "I can't see. It's too dark." Ngozi wanted to tell them it would be okay. She wanted to say, "Mama is here. I will protect you." But she could not speak. She had to stay silent. One word would trap them forever. They ran past the garden of golden fruits. The fruits were falling from the branches now, hitting the ground and exploding into clouds of gold dust. They ran past the place where the fake husband had appeared. The tunnel was breaking apart behind them, section by section. Ahead, Ngozi could see light. The opening. The way back to the surface. They were close. So close. Then she heard a voice behind her. A woman's voice. Familiar. "Ngozi. Help me. The water is pulling me down. Please help me." It was Mama Chica's voice. Ngozi's feet slowed. Her children kept running, but she hesitated. Even though Mama Chica had done evil, even though she had stolen the children, Ngozi's heart was soft. Could she leave someone to drown? Even an enemy? The voice cried out again. "Ngozi. I'm sorry. Please. Don't leave me here." Ngozi's body wanted to turn around. Her neck wanted to twist. Her eyes wanted to see. Was Mama Chica really behind her? Was she truly drowning? Or was this another test? She remembered the third rule. The hardest rule. Do not look back. No matter what you hear. No matter who calls. But the voice sounded so real. So desperate. Mama. Amara tugged her hand. Mama, come on. We have to go. Chimdi pulled her other hand. The water is rising, Mama. Ngozi took one step forward. Then another. The light was close now. Just a few more steps. She could see the surface of the river through the opening. She could see the moon. But the voice behind her screamed louder. Ngozi. How can you leave me? After all I did for you. I watched your children. I cooked for them. And now you abandon me. The voice was sharp now. Angry. It dug into Ngozi's mind like a thorn. Her body twisted. Her neck turned. Her eyes looked back. The moment she did, everything stopped. The water froze in place. The tunnel stopped shaking. The sound disappeared. Everything became silent. Quiet as death. Then the ice began to spread. Starting from her feet, her legs began to turn cold. Hard. She looked down and saw frost climbing up her ankles like white snakes. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. She tried to move, but her legs would not obey. She had broken the third rule. The ice spread quickly. Up her legs. Past her knees. Toward her waist. Ngozi felt her body becoming heavy. Stiff. Cold. Chimdi and Amara turned around. Their eyes went wide with horror. Mama. Chimdi grabbed her arm and pulled. But she was too heavy. Mama, what's happening to you? Amara screamed and cried. Mama, please. Don't leave us. Ngozi tried to speak. Tried to tell them to run. To save themselves. But her lips would not move. The ice was at her chest now. Creeping toward her neck. Then, through the frozen tunnel, the old river woman appeared. She walked slowly through the ice like it was not there. Her white eyes glowed with disappointment. You looked back, the old woman said, shaking her head. I warned you. I told you the rules. Ngozi's eyes filled with tears. The tears froze on her cheeks. The old woman sighed. Foolish daughter. Your heart was too soft. Mercy is good, but mercy without wisdom is dangerous. She raised her hand. The ice stopped spreading. It stayed at Ngozi's shoulders, but it did not go further. I should leave you here, the old woman said. That is the law. Break the rule, stay in the river. But I see your children. And I see your heart. She closed her eyes and seemed to be listening to something far away. Then she opened them again. The river will show mercy this one time. But there is a price. The old woman pointed at Ngozi's feet. The ice began to crack. Slowly, it broke apart and melted. Ngozi gasped as feeling returned to her legs. She could move again. But something was different. She looked at her hands. They were older. Wrinkled. Her skin was loose. Her fingers were bent. You traded your years to the shadows, the old woman said. Now you trade more years to the river. This is the price of looking back. You will age faster. You will grow old before your time. But you will live, and your children will have their mother. Ngozi did not care. She hugged Chimdi and Amara tight. She was alive. They were alive. That was all that mattered. The old woman's voice became hard. Now go. Run to the surface before the sun rises. You have little time. And the one who caused this will face her own judgment. Ngozi nodded. She took her children's hands and ran toward the light. This time, she did not look back. Not once. She kept her eyes forward. They burst out of the water like fish jumping into the air. The night air hit their faces. Cold. Fresh. Beautiful. Ngozi pulled her children onto the riverbank. They coughed and gasped. But they were alive. They were home. Behind them, the river began to boil. Bubbles rose to the surface. Steam hissed into the air. Something was happening beneath the water. Something the river had decided. The sun was just beginning to rise. Orange light spread across the sky like spilled palm oil. The village was waking up. Roosters crowed. Smoke rose from cooking fires. Ngozi and her children walked back to the village. People saw them and shouted. Women dropped their pots. Men ran from their houses. Children screamed with joy. They are alive. The children are alive. Ngozi has returned. It is a miracle. The villagers surrounded them. They touched the children to make sure they were real. They hugged Ngozi and praised the gods. Some people were already preparing Ngozi's burial mat because they thought she had drowned. Now they burned the mat and danced instead. But then someone noticed. Look at Ngozi's hands. Everyone turned. Ngozi's hands were old and wrinkled. Her face had lines it did not have before. Her hair, which had been black as coal yesterday, now had streaks of white. What happened to you? Someone asked. But before Ngozi could answer, a scream came from Mama Chica's compound. A terrible scream that made the birds fly away. That made the dogs whimper and hide. Everyone ran toward the sound. When they reached Mama Chica's house, they saw smoke coming from inside. But there was no fire. Just smoke. And a smell. A terrible smell like rotten eggs and burnt hair. Inside the house, on the floor, was the same clay pot Mama Chica had used to cook for the children. And the pot was boiling by itself. No fire underneath. No wood. Nothing. Just the pot, bubbling and hissing. The villagers stood at the door of Mama Chica's house. Nobody wanted to go inside. The smell was too strong. The smoke was too thick. But they could hear something inside the pot. A voice. Screaming. Help me. Someone help me. The water is burning. I cannot breathe. It was Mama Chica's voice. Coming from inside the pot. The village chief, Okonkwo, pushed through the crowd. He looked at the boiling pot. His face became serious. He turned to Ngozi. Tell us what happened, he said. Tell us everything. Ngozi's voice was weak and tired, but she told them. She told them about the river woman. About the rules. About the glass jars where her children had been trapped. About the shadows and the price she had paid. Then she said the hardest part. It was Mama Chica. She put something in the food she gave my children. Something dark. Something evil. That is why they were taken. The villagers gasped. Some covered their mouths. Others shook their heads. They had suspected, but hearing it out loud was different. Where is she now? Someone asked. As if answering the question, the door to the back room opened. Mama Chica stumbled out. Her wrapper was torn. Her hair was wild. And her hands were stained dark red, like she had been stirring the cursed pot. She looked at the crowd with wide, frightened eyes. It was not my fault, she whispered. I was jealous. The jealousy made me do it. Chief Okonkwo raised his staff and pointed it at Mama Chica. His voice was loud and clear so everyone could hear. Jealousy does not force your hand to poison. Jealousy does not make you steal children. You chose evil, Mama Chica. You chose darkness when you could have chosen light. Mama Chica fell to her knees. Tears ran down her face. I am sorry. I am so sorry. Please forgive me. I did not know it would go this far. I thought I would just make them sick for a little while. I thought Ngozi would need me. I thought she would see that I was useful. I did not mean for them to disappear. But the villagers were angry. Too angry. You almost killed innocent children. You brought evil into our village. You pretended to be a friend while planning evil. Mama Chica looked at Ngozi. Please, Ngozi. You have a good heart. Tell them to forgive me. Tell them to let me go. Ngozi looked at her. The woman who had smiled at her children while stirring poison. The woman who had caused her so much pain. Part of Ngozi wanted to forgive. But another part was too tired. Too hurt. Before Ngozi could speak, Mama Chica stood up. She pushed through the crowd and ran. Ran toward the river. Stop her, someone shouted. But nobody moved fast enough. Mama Chica ran like fear was chasing her. And maybe it was. Mama Chica reached the riverbank. She fell to her knees at the water's edge. The same place where Ngozi had met the old woman. The same place where the door had opened. Please. Mama Chica cried out to the river. Forgive me. I did not mean it. I was weak. I was foolish. Please do not punish me. The villagers arrived behind her. They stood at a distance, watching. Nobody wanted to get too close to the river. Not after what had happened. For a moment, nothing happened. The river was calm. Quiet. The morning sun made the water sparkle like broken glass. Then the old woman appeared. She rose from the water like she was made of mist. Her white eyes stared at Mama Chica. Her face showed no anger. No pity. Just judgment. You fed poison to innocents, the old woman said. You used trust as a weapon. You planted seeds of darkness in a place of light. Mama Chica sobbed. I know. But please, give me another chance. I will change. I will be good. The old woman shook her head. The river does not give second chances to those who harm children. The river remembers. The river judges. And the river keeps what it claims. She raised one hand. The water behind Mama Chica began to move. It rose up like a hand made of water. It reached for Mama Chica. Mama Chica screamed and tried to run, but the water was faster. It wrapped around her ankles and pulled. She fell face first into the mud. The water dragged Mama Chica toward the river. She clawed at the ground. She grabbed at rocks and grass. But nothing could stop the river's pull. Help me, she screamed at the villagers. Please, someone help me. But nobody moved. Not because they were cruel, but because they knew. You cannot fight the river. You cannot argue with justice. Mama Chica was pulled into the water. She went under once. Then came up gasping. Then went under again. The third time she went under, she did not come back up. The water bubbled for a moment. Then became still. Calm. Like nothing had happened. All that remained on the surface was her wrapper. Floating. Slowly drifting away with the current. The old river woman looked at the villagers. Let this be a lesson. Jealousy destroys the one who carries it. It eats you from inside until nothing good remains. Guard your hearts. Protect your children. And never trust a smile that has no warmth behind it. Then she reached into the water and pulled out something. A small stone that glowed with soft white light. She walked to Ngozi and placed it in her hand. Keep this, daughter. When danger comes near your children, this stone will grow warm. It will warn you. The river has given you a gift because you were willing to sacrifice everything. The old woman began to fade. Like smoke in the wind. Her last words echoed across the water. Remember. Remember what happened here. Then she was gone. Weeks passed. Then months. Life in Umuaka slowly returned to normal. But some things had changed forever. Ngozi's plantain stall by the river became famous. People came from far villages not just to buy plantains, but to hear her story. To see the woman who went beneath the river and came back. To touch the stone that glowed when danger was near. Her children, Chimdi and Amara, grew strong and healthy. They never spoke about what they saw in the glass jars. Some memories are too strange for words. But they stayed close to their mother. Always. Ngozi's hair turned completely white within a year. Her back bent slightly when she walked. Her hands stayed wrinkled. She had paid the price of looking back. But she never complained. She had her children. That was enough. The village learned to be more careful. Mothers no longer left their children with just anyone. They watched closely. They asked questions. They trusted less and protected more. And the river? The river stayed quiet. But sometimes, on nights when the moon was full, people said they could see an old woman sitting on a rock, weaving nets of light. Watching. Remembering. Guarding. Nobody ever saw Mama Chica again. Her house was torn down. Grass grew where it used to stand. Some said on quiet nights you could hear crying coming from the river. But nobody went to check. The story spread from village to village. From grandmother to grandchild. A warning. A lesson. A reminder. Not every smile is kind. Not every neighbor is a friend. And jealousy, if you feed it, will eat you alive. The story you have just heard is a beautiful African tale I heard long ago. I am telling it to you to wake your minds to the dangers that hide behind familiar faces. Jealousy is real. It does not knock on your door and announce itself. It smiles at you while planning your downfall. If you were Ngozi, would you have looked back? Would you have been strong enough to follow all 3 rules, knowing that one mistake could cost you everything? I want to know your opinion because every story is like a candle that can light the path for someone else. Remember, protect your children. Do not leave them with people whose hearts you do not truly know. Trust is precious. Once broken, it can never be fully repaired. And never, ever let jealousy grow in your own heart. It will destroy you before it destroys anyone else. God bless you, and may wisdom guide your steps. Meanwhile, on the final screen, I am leaving you with one of the channel's most beloved folktales. I am sure you will love it. Thank you for staying with me until this moment.